Let us continue. We had a welcome from the mayor of Braga yesterday. We now have the sort of official welcome from the state of Portugal. Delighted to welcome Filipe Silva here. We saw him, I introduced him last night on the stage, director of Visit Portugal. He's been 30 years involved in international relations, experience in trade and tourism, and is responsible for the Visit Portugal strategy. I always get nervous when Anke comes up the floor here. What have I forgotten? But until now, not yet so much. So he is the expert on international connectivity and trade relations from Visit Portugal. Also very much focused on developing sustainable business. I was lucky enough to sit next to him for part of the dinner last night, so I can tell you he's a very interesting chap, has a huge amount of experience. His motto is making the most with the resources you have. You cannot do any better than that. So Filipe, we're delighted that you're with us today. And personally, I'm delighted that you and I are the ones that know how to wear a tie. So thank you and welcome to the stage on behalf of Portugal, Filipe Silva.
Good morning, everyone. Bom dia, as we say in Portugal. How are you today? Oh. Okay, so my name is Filipe Silva. Thank you very much, John, for the lovely introduction. I think a bit more. I think you've raised your expectations in regards to the audience. But anyway, really nice to meet you all. Warm welcome to my country, Portugal. Very warm welcome here to this lovely region, the north of Portugal, and to the lovely city of Braga, as the mayor mentioned yesterday. Fantastic, fabulous city that has been, quite vibrant, quite dynamic. So I really, really hope that you enjoy your stay here for the next few days. Special thanks to our friends from LCC, Martina, Anke, Siri, all the team. You've been, tremendous working together. Of course, that couldn't be done without our regional partners here in the Porto of the North, and Mariano, of course. Delighted to have this joint cooperation and to welcome you all here in Braga. One first, but and allow me, John, the most important question here for the whole conference. For how many of you is the first time here in Portugal? I see that roughly there's still quite a lot of people, which increases the responsibility in delivering this conference properly. So for the ones that are here for the first time, we sincerely hoped that we managed to meet your, or hopefully exceed your expectations. For the ones that have already visited Portugal, we sincerely hope that you have a good experience here in the north of Portugal. And we never forget that a happy customer means good business, but a happy partner means a highly potential, extraordinary good business. So you are key in the whole process. You are very important to us. There's going to be a lot of technology discussions during the coming days, but here in Portugal, we never forget that tourism, at the end of the day, it's a people's-to-people's business. So we rely very much on your knowledge, on your expertise, because at the end of the day, if you have a good experience here in Portugal, somehow you will be managing to share your experience with your customers and, of course, advise Portugal for the coming holidays. So thank you, a huge thank you for all your efforts. And that leads me to not to my presentation, but still one additional P that allow me, John, to add to your 4 Ps. And that's very much related to our national strategy that was set in place back in 2017, which is very much focused on one single P, people. And people split in 3 different dimensions. Our visitors, of course, the tourists that are coming to our country. Huge responsibility in welcoming every single visitor that is coming to our country. Second dimension, and not less important, staff. All the staff that is working within our tourism sector. It's huge, huge responsibility. And within our organization, we run 12 tourism schools from north, south to Portugal. And our aim is, of course, to prepare them as carefully as possible, because they will be the ones that will be in front of your customers and providing, hopefully, a good service. Third, but not less important dimension in when it comes to people, the residents. And we've seen a lot of discussions in what regards to some locations, geographical locations, saying that they don't want tourism anymore. It's too much tourism. So within our country, we try to involve our residents as much as possible within our strategy, in order for them to acknowledge the benefits that tourism brings to their regions, to their municipalities, to the places where they are living. So, John, allow me just one fifth P, that for us, it's key in the whole strategy of Portugal. My presentation will be focused on ESG. So, very much focus on environmental, social dimension, and of course, governance. How many of you, that's my next question, how many of you are actively including these kind of strategy or practices within your organizations? Don't be shy. Please, just a raise of hands in order to acknowledge who is actively really doing this. Okay. That helps me, of course, in order to address to a specific audience. Most of you haven't yet included, and of course, in Portugal, it's not much difference. We started this project more or less 1.5 years ago, so it's still in its early stages, still giving its baby steps, but really key and important, considering that all your customers progressively will be very much attentive, and when booking their holidays, they will be trying to think if that specific destination has consideration in what regards to environmental or social or government issues as well. So 360 degrees project, very much placing companies at the center of the tourism sector and providing knowledge and expertise in this transformation process, aiming that these companies in the tourism sector will be hopefully recognized as sustainable, and most important, because probably this is an area that most of you don't have a specific knowledge, and our aim as an organization for the tourism sector here in Portugal is to generate also a sort of a language that is accessible for these corporations. Please never forget that the tourism sector is composed mostly by very small micro type of organizations with limited resources. So our objective, of course, is to help them to understand this. Challenging companies in order to adapt these measures, and of course encouraging companies to report their ESG measures, because with this data that will be included into a specific platform, I will get into that, that will allow them to have a sustainability report and will allow us as a tourism organization in order to collect data on a more global basis. These are the whole partners that are with which we are engaged, mostly of them related to the financial sector, but also we have UN Global Compact Network here in Portugal, the Portuguese Association of Companies Ethics. So, global financial institutions very much engaged in the whole process, which is key for instance, a very delicate and important theme, which is financing your activity. The challenge, of course, creating ESG performance monitoring and reporting standards according to the tourism, specific for the tourism sector, and integrating factors that reflects the strategy of these corporations is key in the whole process. This will allow, of course, an ultimate end, which is objective, which is, of course, to communicate our measures our investment in this specific area. There's an operating model, and this, of course, gives the overview of the 360 degrees business model that we have in place, placing the company in the center that will have to engage with all the different stakeholders, whether you're talking about suppliers, shareholders, customers, employees, the local community in which the company is involved. So this is key in the whole process in order to have a successful program. Like Juan Carlos mentioned, this presentation will be made available for you. So I don't expect you to have, good reading about this specific slide, but it reflects in terms of not only the three different scopes, environmental, social, and governance, but also you will be able to have a more detailed theme on each of the scopes, and also the breakdown in what regards to the report, the sustainability report that is produced, or the requirements, depending on the type of company, whether you're talking about accommodation, catering, corporate events company, car rental companies as well, and also including, depending on whether you're a small, medium-sized, or large corporation. So the requirements may vary depending on these criteria. Having a bit more readiness about what I was mentioning, on the environmental area, we're talking about themes like water consumption, energy management, waste management as well. On the social area, how your hiring model is, the wage equality, workforce diversity, employment skills. On the government side, ethics, transparency, so all the different themes related to each of the topic that can also later on be broken down, as I will explain a bit more. So on the water consumption, what do we mean about water consumption? So it's breaking down on each of the different factors that will somehow provide information that is collected and lately be analyzed and compiled into a specific report. So I will not be detailing each of these themes that are related to each of the scopes, but this is very, very important in order to provide a proper and accessible language to small corporations, to medium-sized corporations, in order for them to understand what they need to do when collecting data that can be included in our platform. So also on the environmental factor, social factor as well. Again, governments as well, and that leads us to the sustainability reports that each corporation can produce by including their specific data on sustainability. So the difference between, in terms of the size of the corporation, when it comes to the medium size, you will add also the long-term goals that you need to address on this specific report. And on the large enterprises, you will have information in what regards to their specific contributions to the 2030 agenda and to the UN Sustainability Development Goals. So messages that are equivalent to all corporations, a message from the management, the company profile, the sustainability strategy for the three different topics and for the different stakeholders as well. Which are your commitments, economic performance, and of course the statement of liability. So this is the basic structure of the report that you are able to have as an organization when you are engaging with this process. These are the tools that we will be providing to each of the company that is joining this program. So specific training on ESG management, providing specific guidelines as well, depending on whether you are a small corporation or a large corporation. And of course, last but not least, to the right, our business analytics and business intelligence tool that will allow in order to collect, analyze, and prepare all information that is produced afterwards in the sustainability report. How do we engage with our companies? We have thousands of companies in Portugal, but how do we manage in order to have engagement from them? First, if you are interested in the theme, you can jointly free this process, and you will be granted with a specific stamp, which is called the Sustainability Committed. Doesn't mean that you are providing data, but you are interested in the theme. So that's the first step, and that's with this kind of approach on the different type of stamps, whether it's committed, engaged, or a leader, you are providing visibility also to these companies that will somehow be able to share this information with their stakeholders, whether we're talking about suppliers, customers, shareholders, employees, or the local community. So if you're joining the program, you're immediately granted with the Sustainability Committed stamp. If you are providing data into the platform, means that you are sustainability engaged with this, and this is just for free. There's no cost involved in this. Hopefully, within 2 years' time, we will be having data, because this is rather recent, we will be having data in order to provide the last but not less important stamp, which is the Sustainability Leader stamp, meaning that from the different stages, you are able to perform or to show that you have improved throughout the years in terms of all the different criteria in environmental, social, and governance. So hopefully within a couple of years, we'll be granting the Sustainability Leader stamp. Last but not least, 2 final slides in terms of the benefits that are included on the whole process. The participation is free. You have access to a technology that is collecting, analyzing, and providing information on reporting. The reporting is according to the global sustainability standards. Additional benefits are, of course, included in terms of know-how regarding the techniques for collecting, managing, and reporting ESG information. You have access also to ESG performance specific on the tourism sector. You are allowed to participate on workshops related to the themes in order to improve your skills, your knowledge, your expertise on this. You have access to specialized teams within our organization that will help in order to deliver your strategy within ESG. Access to diversified financing sources, achieving an ESG rating, and of course that leads us to communication and visibility. You need to have a visibility regarding all the investment that you are doing in this area, because that will reflect positively, hopefully, within your organization. Last slide, of course, our aim is to have companies more and more socially fair, environmentally responsible, and financially sustainable. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to answering all your questions.
Thank you very much. I think that was very enlightening and most interesting. I think 99% of the audience was sure that when you said I was missing out a P, that you were going to say Portugal. But people was very good, and you certainly gave us, with some personality and some persuasiveness, an excellent overview of what you're doing here. We're going to talk much more about ESG later on in the day. Just one quick question. This seems like an amazing framework that you've set up here for ESG. Is this something you're working with other countries about as well? Or don't you really want to share it? Or, because this looks like it could be used not just for tourist boards and national tourist boards, but also for all sorts of other companies to take that sort of framework and apply it to their own countries.
John, I mean, currently we were just working in Portugal. Like I mentioned, I mean, we are doing the first baby steps in this process. So we need to do things right first here in Portugal. And we are, of course, open in order to sort of export this kind of model to other countries. So whatever may help organizations or countries in order to improve on these very important theme that is addressing on these three different dimensions: environmental, social, and of course governance, will improve, will have an important impact in what regards to the tourism sector overall. So, but at this stage, to be totally honest, we need to do things right here in our country. We need to engage more with our companies. The base of companies that have joined this program is still quite low. We're talking about just roughly under 400 companies. So it's still low compared with what is our expectations. So there's still a lot of work, because the more companies you have, the more companies that are providing data, this will reflect also in terms of understanding how the country is addressing on the three different topics. So if, like Juan Carlos was mentioning, in terms of the basis, if the basis is quite low in terms of the number of visitors, if you have an increase of 2 in 10, it's 20%. So if you have, only 10 companies providing data, it's not relevant overall. But if you have, probably, of course, we would wish to have, 10,000 companies providing data. That will be extremely relevant in terms of evaluating what a country is doing, what the companies are doing on these three different dimensions.
I mean, even though I'm based in the UK, I do remember there's something called EU, and that may be something that you can sort of share across there. But first of all, let me congratulate you on a great concept and a great build-up a plan. If you don't have the plan, then you don't get anyone, and you've done the plan in an excellent way, and I think we can learn from that. So thank you very much for attending our conference and for giving us the insight to what you're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.